It's Deja Vu. This moment's happened before.
You have found the Kaleidoscope Gallery.
Hello, and welcome to the Kaleidoscope Gallery, where we exhibit conversations and stories about the real, the surreal, and somewhere in between. I'm your host, Paul, and alongside contributors Dave and Leah, we will be exploring the possible connection between past lives, the phenomenon of deja vu, and the physical weight of information. Then, moving violations, personal stories and confessions of adventures and misadventures involving cars. And the dramatic difference between the Canadian national anthem's English language lyrics versus the French Canadian version. And more. So let's step into the first exhibit inside the Kaleidoscope Gallery.
Is this the end of life, or the cue for a new beginning? Millions believe in reincarnation. Is there proof it really happens? Do people pass through many lifetimes, and can they bring back memories of having lived before? Scientists are trying to assess the evidence from those who claim to have lived before. Will they prove the case for reincarnation and reveal what brings those memories to the human mind?
To you, Dave, do you have any inkling of what you might call your own past lives? Or a life, past life?
Yes. I don't totally have my finger on it. I've definitely gone through phases where I've thought about that, or usually they're megalomaniacs, egotistical artists, down through the ages. World domination dreams. And that's just the lives on Earth. We're talking about Planet 23. There was a farmer. And sometimes I feel it when I garden. I can understand the connection to my farming past. But that wasn't on Earth. You know, the whole reincarnation thing, there's something you'd feel in your bones about it being true, you know. Even though there's no science to it. There is such a thing as an old soul, or like a baby that's already 700 years old. Or a 700-year-old who's really only a baby.
Yeah, and I know there's past life therapy. I don't know anything about it, and I think that, again, it might be one of those tricks and trades of the new age. Not that I'm saying it's not legit, but I'm not saying it is legit, but we do know that when you investigate a number of these things that are being sold to you, they end up being pretty false.
Yes. Because they sell based on certain things that humans know, or maybe are just conditioned because of, you know, certain organized religions who get you early. I definitely, I think reincarnation happens, but I think it's not in the way people think it's happening. I think it just points out that we're all one being. So we've been every single life that's lived on Earth, we share. And that's why, yes, it's true when you go back in your mind and say, that was one of my past lives, because almost certainly it was.
In the collective unconscious, as it were, you could access memories that of the entire species.
I mean, it's not just humankind, actually. I think it goes beyond. It includes like the living planet that we're on, because it's alive too, just in a different way. It's moving and evolving and changing, and you can hurt it too.
You did make me completely rethink this, because I had a pretty vivid, what I kind of categorized at the time, and this is quite a number of years ago now, and I actually even almost forgot about it, but it came back to me recently, that I had personally strong sense of a past life. And briefly, it was that I was a radio operator in a Canadian Lancaster bomber in the Second World War, and that I was shot down and died.
I think that's true.
30 tons of aircraft flying at approximately 300 miles an hour. Those are the wings that will spread over Europe like an avenging sable shadow of death. Each one capable of carrying about 8 tons of bombs. It's a Lancaster, the mightiest aerial engine of destruction ever conceived and built.
I had this I wouldn't call it a dream, but okay, we can call it a dream, but I fell asleep in a park in Windsor, Ontario called Jackson Park, and at the time, an old Lancaster bomber on display. And it was sleeping underneath this, that I had that very strong vision. And it connected to me at the time. Was very interested in radio. I was born in Scotland. We moved to Canada, and I always had my headphones on because I'm making electronic music all the time, and I always had my headphones on. And then I pieced it all together. I felt like radio men, they wear headphones all the time. I work with radio equipment and synthesizers, which is basically synthesizers are a form of radio.
Yes. And
tuning oscillators and whatnot. And those all fit neatly into a picture for me that said that if I had been in a prior life shot down in World War II in a Lancaster bomber that was Canadian, and in this life I come up with all sorts of similar interests and have moved back to Canada and lived in Windsor where they had the Lancaster bomber, it all personally resonated for me. As you say, it's no science at all.
No, I think that's probably true. Because I've known you for many years, and I've seen you listening to the sounds and being strapped in with wires in small spaces and operating knobs and dials. Like, if you didn't do it just right, the village would be destroyed. You kind of look like someone from the 40s.
You're a bit vague about your sense of your past life, but how does that square off, by the way, with the story I just told you, with what you were saying about it being more of a collective, it's not such an individual thing?
It is collective, but there's definitely certain ribbons of experience that you've been closer to, or that you've absorbed through your location even in this collective. So it's not, we all get a little bit of each other's experiences, but there's probably a few experiences where you get deep into someone's reality and then cross back certain paths that might evoke a memory that you didn't know you had, or a recollection of something that happened but was never seen, or a deja vu where definitely didn't happen before, but it's actually happened 6,000 times in the last millisecond.
What can explain that eerie, unsettling feeling we sometimes get that we've experienced a new situation once before? It might just be the weirdest experience you'll ever have sober. But what exactly is deja vu? One thing it definitely is common. 2/3 of us have had it, with younger people, globetrotters, and film fans likely to get it more frequently. Because of its inherent weirdness, deja vu was long thought of alongside paranormal events like clairvoyance and reincarnation. In fact, it was parapsychologist Émile Bourac who first named the feeling in the 1870s, using the French for already seen.
You mentioned deja vu. My theory on deja vu, no, I won't call it a theory, my speculation on deja vu is it's your future self having a memory of your present past.
Yes.
So when you have that feeling of deja vu, it's you, Dave, in 10 years, recalling the time you and I used to chat overnight, and you're remembering it in the future.
The future has been seen over and over and over again. And the past is destined to happen again, where the real magic is here and now, and not just this here and now, but the 64 billion here and nows across at least 14 dimensions.
It's deja vu. This moment's happened before.
How heavy is data? When talking about weight, the subject is most often physical things, such as a person's weight or maybe the weight of a new supercar. But have you ever wondered what data weighs? There is data in everything you read, watch, download or upload online. Even though you can't feel the weight of electronic data, it does have a very small weight. The internet runs on electrons, and this is also how data is stored. As an example, a normal email of 50 kilobits requires approximately 8 billion electrons. Because we know how much a single electron weighs, we can calculate the weight of data.
Recently, it's been discovered in physics that information is matter. Information itself exists in the physical world, and also, for example, using extremely sensitive measuring equipment, they fill up a hard drive with bits and bytes, information, and the hard drive weighs more than it did before the information went on it.
Well, I mean, that's mind-blowing shit. Like, let's think about it for a second. The cosmic dust is what I used to call it, but now it's been measured. How does that? It's just yes. Well, it makes a ton of sense. Thinking is dangerous, man.
I remember you mentioned something about cosmic dust when we had that discussion.
But it's basically that. It's that theory that if you say something out loud or clearly formulate an idea past the level of a thought, that it enters the cosmic dust and it feeds into this global zeitgeist. And that's why so many people come up with the same amazing idea at exactly the same time. And if it's a good idea, it resonates across the single being. So if you think about it in those terms, you're feeding from the collective into the mother brain. Where is the mother brain? That's the question there. Where? That would explain a lot of this stuff, right? It would explain the past lives thing, explain the deja vu, it would explain the cosmic dust and the weight of information. That's amazing. So eventually, once there's so much data, you're going to need like cargo ships to transport it. Even if the hard drive is like the size of a piece of pie or smaller. You need a forklift to pick up like a quarter.
Yeah, at one point, Google's going to collapse into the ground because
the weight of the information. Yeah, exactly. Like the weight of, like they don't tell you, but they're reinforcing like triple beam concrete under all their buildings right now. The cloud data centers are like actually sinking into the core of the planet.
Kaleidoscope Gallery contributor Hans and I, we had a chat not too long ago. And as the chat was beginning, I was asking him, like, how his day went, whatever. And he said to me that he had to go to Rona, the hardware store Rona, because he had to buy flypaper.
Flypaper.
And that conversation then quickly went into me describing to Hans how you had kept a pet fly in your home. A fly that like lived in your house for like 3 or 4 months or something. Or was it what kind of bug was it?
I wouldn't call it a pet, more like a roommate. An uninvited roommate, one that eventually became kind of an affectionate relationship. I've lived in spaces for many, many, many years, and I've never experienced like a fly who spent his whole life and hung out and like came to the door when I got home and
like affectionately landed on your nose.
No, that was what I meant. It like showed some respect. It would only fly around the table after dinner.
How long did it live in your house?
Maybe like a couple of months. Like its whole life, like its whole lifespan. Yeah. And then we thought it should die because it became really interesting that it was with us this whole time. And so looked up the lifespan of the housefly, whatever it was. Right. And this may have been something else. Like we can get into that later. But lifespan of the housefly is only like...
The common housefly has a lifespan of around 14 to 28 days. Under ideal conditions, such as warm temperatures, a housefly can live for about 28 days. But under more typical conditions, its lifespan would be shorter.
This fly, we were like, it's not going to be around for much longer. But it extended its lifespan by almost 3 times. By having this cushy, like, human-style life. Living in a house, like, eating scraps from proper food. Maybe it's more like your roommate's friend who comes over and is always there all the time, and you're like, get the hell out of here. Why is this guy here all the time again? This guy again. Then, like, as you, like, when you live with a creature, you live by their lifespan a bit too. As, like, the months go by, and this, like, you know that this creature is, like, spending its entire existence on the planet. with you. So what happens when the creature lives double its lifespan and then one sad, glorious, kind of inconsequential day,
It vanished.
it was gone now.
You are inside the Kaleidoscope Gallery.
There is no scene like the driving scene.
In the many years I've served as a legislator, I've noticed a mounting concern about the problem of the teenage driver. This concern is not mine alone, but is shared with me by many of my colleagues, public officials, law enforcement officers, and what is perhaps more important, the public in general. I feel that their immaturity, their attitudes on driving in general, their over-aggressive personality traits, and a willingness to take unnecessary risks certainly contribute to this ever-mounting problem.
The thing that got me thinking about this, it was actually one of our mutual friends who, this out of nowhere, started telling me this story. I'm not sure how we got into this conversation, but he started telling about when he was in high school, he had one friend that, you know how like when you're maybe say 15 or 16, like there's only like one or two friends that might have a car at school. And so that car becomes very popular.
Mm-hmm. Usually gets a name.
This is true. Okay, so the story my friend told me about this kind of car that this guy had in high school that everyone would pile into at lunchtime. Well, were starting to develop techniques of squishing as many people into this car as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, seatbelts being disregarded and people sitting on top of each other, 8 people in the car that would normally fit maybe 5. And it got to the point someone went onto the roof of the car. They opened up the sunroof, and this guy just clung on to the sunroof while they were driving down to lunchtime hour to go wherever they were going, the donut shop or whatever.
That's next level. I mean, I was a dangerous car person. I mean, I love speed and cars, and my silly youthful tales tend to surround cars, either myself driving it or someone else. But that takes the cake. That's the cherry on the car risk-taking sundae.
And there's more. So to get even more people on the car, he told me that they would roll down the windows of the back seat, the doors in the back seat, and guys would just cling to the door.
From the outside?
From the outside.
Oh my God.
And just, keep their knees up.
Yeah, you're like basically sitting on the trunk in the back and holding onto the...
You're just holding onto the door frame. And so now you've got a guy on the roof, like 8 people in the car, and 2 people on either side clinging to doorways.
I would demand a bungee cord before I would consider that activity.
But no one actually got hurt.
That's the miracle of youth. I think, if it's the ancestors that do the, those guardian angels, if that's ancestors, they're really busy at times like that in our youth. They're busy.
Or perhaps because there was less fear about consequences, that it led to, just appropriate amount of risk taking. It seems crazy.
Maybe the guy's driving 40 kilometers or 30 kilometers or 20 kilometers an hour. I don't know. But
and I don't think they had far to go. Maybe just,
they're just heading to the, the high schoolers at my high school were going, a few kilometers to the local McDonald's. But, well, in Switzerland, I mean, and I think this is smart. In Switzerland, you can't get a driver's license till you're 18, but you can drink at 16. Right? So get all of that out of your system before you get behind a wheel. And honestly, it's the opposite here, where you can drive at 16 and be insane. Because I have a few tales to tell there. But I mean, I like to jump the car, so over speed bumps designed to slow you down.
Okay, so wait, Leah, let's get into this, though, because I know for a fact, I won't be coy, I know that you have some interesting stories involving cars and risk-taking.
Yeah, I liked risk-taking a lot.
When I first met you, and that was like not long after this period of your life, and you had just a little bit left in you, and there was a road that would lead to a cottage.
Yeah.
And these roads had
it was like it rolled.
It rolled. These weren't actually
hills.
Speed bumps. They were small hills.
But then there were speed bumps built into them too, I think, on top of that.
And if you hit those at the right velocity...
There were certain ones, yes, exactly. If you were going fast enough, you caught air.
You would literally jump in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in a kind of not a rust bucket, but bolts, and the bolts were falling off of this minivan. And the reason why they were falling off is because you were jumping this thing.
The minivan was one of those high school vehicles that, between my sister and I, had probably many names.
This minivan was what we were talking about, one of those high school cars.
Yeah.
That is very popular because not many people have access to cars in high school.
And with minivans, you can fit many people.
And so this is a natural party vehicle.
But anyhow, yeah. So it was fun to catch air on the way in there. And you did have to go rather obscene, speeds to catch the air. So the biggest concern would be a deer, unexpected. And they do sometimes unexpectedly come out of those forests. So fortunately, that never happened. Otherwise, it would have been, because I have thrown on the brakes at obscene speeds on rural roads to not hit dogs twice. You see the plural here. This happened to me twice in two different types of vehicles. And in both cases, spin out.
So you were going obscene speeds on rural highways or byways?
Rural highways, two-lane highways, rural highways. It's like, maximum speed 80 or 90 kilometers an hour.
And that's about 60 miles an hour. And what were you going?
I do have to admit that?
Yeah, it's okay. No one's going to tell anymore. This is a while
under
ago.
200 kilometers an hour.
So like
but, getting close.
So 180, so
180, 190.
Well over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. And one time it's in a Mercedes E-Class. That's an older car. But then another time it's in the minivan. It's like in the rust bucket. It had been used and
abused. Well, okay. When you're getting air, Leah, and those minivans are not meant to jump.
No, you have to play the minivan song. No, they're not. They're meant to tote around children and dogs and bottles, and
there's many times you probably had how many people in the back of that minivan bouncing around as you're going how fast?
I got an unbelievably huge ticket that I deserved. I mean, someone had even taken my wallet and thrown it into the oblivion of the back seat, which actually had no seats in it, just people and empty beer bottles, which hadn't been drunk by me that day. I was not drunk driving. No one was in there drinking, but they were rattling around. Yeah, they were rattling around. Oh, God.
of looked like I was going to have to educate the high school on the subject of hot rods. How to take a jalopy and really make it move. Why, in the burg I came from, I had the juiciest bug of any rodder in the goose greasers. That was our street racing club. And I had the biggest collection of traffic citations, too.
And then I had a high school boyfriend who just loved to work on his pony. He had an old Hyundai pony.
The pony. Power and agility in a compact, superbly bred package. The Hyundai Pony. Tough tested in Canada and backed by an extensive warranty. The Pony with factory undercoating, Michelin radios, proven fuel economy, and a fully stocked coast-to-coast dealer network for guaranteed service wherever you are. Take a pony for a ride. You'll be amazed.
Which is not an exciting sounding car. It was stick shift, but he loved to race. That guy was a rally racer in the making. Sailing and driving, he loved to race. And he was a really good driver, but terrifying.
Must be your boyfriend trying to be funny. Some joke.
The fancy chicks and their leather-jacketed road devils, whose flaming dates burn up the highway.
So that's not so much taking that much risk if he was a good driver.
Being in the car with him at points was highly risk-taking. But yeah, one of the silly things that I did as a young person, but it was a lot of fun, and fortunately no one got hurt. So there's my caveats before telling the tale. But it was, we had a party up at that cottage where the jumping used to happen. And it was wintertime, and it was a winter wonderland, and the roads were slippery and with, sort of packed down icy snow. And we tied a dinghy to the back of his pony, Hyundai pony, and he drove like a maniac down the road while people rode in the dinghy in the back of the car, and the rest of us were like piled in, or screaming, ah! And it was a ridiculous amount of fun, and people would wipe out occasionally. But yeah, fortunately, no one died.
Definitely, that's frowned upon.
Yeah. No, if you'd had to like quickly brake, or if it had swung out and hit a tree, there's numerous ways how people could have been seriously harmed.
But what it keeps coming back to me is how so far all of the stories I can think of or that you can think of, they involve cars.
And that's hence my cautionary and sort of, tale and social musing, which is the fact that we can drive at 16, but not drink until 18. And so we're illegally drinking. But shouldn't it be maybe more like it was in Switzerland, where they've reversed that? Yeah, and take the taboo out of drinking, and get it, drink legally from a younger age, but don't let people drive until they're a little more mature.
While we're on the subject of youngsters, let's pay a visit to a driving school in Brixton, London, where the pupils are mostly children, and where the instructors, believe it or not, are children too. Run by Mr. Leslie Wilson, whose motto understandably is "Driving is child's play," the school, built on a former bomb site, sets out in the first place to teach non-drivers road sense without actually facing real traffic. Mr. Wilson's daughter, Marilyn, aged 11, is already an experienced driver. In fact, she's been driving for years now, and much prefers it to the usual interests of a girl of her age. Let's watch her now as she gives a lesson to a woman in her 60s.
Story that I have to tell does also involve a car.
I know, right? What is that?
I didn't know these guys that well, but well enough that I trusted them, basically, to get into a car with them and go to a party. Wherever this party was going to be, I wasn't quite sure. And as, of course, their car was overfilled. And
there's a theme here.
Yes. And they convinced me that I could just go into the trunk of the car. And this is a kind of car design where the trunk is completely separated from the body of the vehicle. You cannot
climb through.
No, you cannot climb through. It's just it's like a friggin' tub with a lid on it. And
terrifying.
Complete darkness. And they convinced me, they said, No, we do it all the time. No problem. When we, it's just about, it's 10 minutes away. And when we get there, we'll just pop the trunk out and you'll be fine. It's good. We do it all the time. And I'm like, okay, I guess.
It's normal.
And when I told Hans this story, and if he was like, this sounds like Quentin Tarantino, but like basically I was fucking waiting for these guys. Trust me, 10 minutes is a really, really long time to be in a locked trunk in the dark.
I don't have claustrophobia, but that story gives me claustrophobia. And if I experienced that, I would probably gain claustrophobia.
But no, I didn't, because I kept calm because, like I say, I trusted these guys. And indeed, when we got to the party, I guess, I can't remember anything about this party, but when we got to the location, there was about 10 seconds elapsed before they came to the trunk. Those were a rough 10 seconds because are they going to actually come and get me? But it was a reasonable amount of time for them to get out of the car, get the keys. Like they were totally on the up and up. They did what they promised.
Yeah, you didn't have to scream at the top of your lungs from the trunk. Help! Let me out of here! I would have freaked out if it was longer than 10 seconds, I tell you.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh, sorry, Paul. We forgot that we had you there. Like, they honestly didn't mean to leave me
Well,
there.
exactly. No, yeah, just like, they're all excited to go to the party. Hey, all right, let's go get the kegger. Oh, shit, Paul's in the trunk.
But I did resolve to never do it again.
Oh, my God. I don't know that I could have been convinced to do that, and I've done some crazy things in cars. It's the gateway to being strapped to the roof.
Hold on for your life.
You are listening to the Kaleidoscope Gallery. The Kaleidoscope Gallery.
Well, I think it's about time that the resolution is brought to the House of Commons so that we take a final and a precise decision whether or not this country of ours, Canada, is bilingual.
Well, I'm quite sure that it will have a solidifying effect on Canadian unity. From the French-Canadian side, they will have been given the first concrete proof that Canada, and we really mean to get down to business when we talk about the two official languages.
You know what? The French lyrics of "O Canada" are really aggressive, man.
I know from the Expo Games. Oh Canada, terre de nos aïeux, tant franc et saint, des fleurons glorieux.
Car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits.
Protégera
we stand on guard.
Play ball.
Oh, formidable. That was pretty good. Although sometimes I wasn't sure if you sounded like a bit like a Cossack or something with your accent.
I went a little too low, yeah.
The English lyrics of Canada are very like, I don't know, like they're almost like they're kind of hymn-like or like uplifting and reverential, kind of like Canada's great, we love it.
No.
But the French lyrics, can you translate some of them? Like some of them are about like they're pretty. What are some of the French lyrics that are very different than the English ones?
That's a great question. Let me see if I can find I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm going to look up.
Yeah, you don't want to get that wrong.
The original lyrics were in French.
Yeah, that's true.
Here is the English translation of the French lyrics.
To O Canada.
O Canada, land of our forefathers, thy brow is girt with glorious flowerets. For thy arm knows how to bear the sword. It knows how to bear the cross. Thy history is an epic of the most brilliant exploits. And thy valor, tempered with faith, will protect our hearths, our rights, will protect our hearths and our rights. O Canada, land of our ancestors, you wear a garland of glorious flowers, because your arm knows how to carry the sword, and it knows how to carry the cross. Your history is an epic tale of the most brilliant adventures, and your courage, strengthened by faith, will protect our homes, and it will protect our rights. It will protect our homes and our rights.
Wow. I don't think that's really different, right? The English one, which just for people who don't know the Canadian national anthem in English, what are at least the first couple of stanzas? Is it there at your fingertips?
In English, yeah. Okay. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, and all of us command. With glowing hearts we see the rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Oh my God! So that compared to the French lyrics sounds very like CBC.
I know, the French is way better.
Play ball.
We hope you have enjoyed this excursion through the Kaleidoscope Gallery, and that you'll join us again next time.
You have been listening to the Kaleidoscope Gallery.